Executive Mayor, Dr. Janda, i-leaders zonke ezikhoyo zakwamasipala and other departments, ngelihle igama lomfeli nomvukeli wami onguYesu Kristu, amen. Omi phambi kwenu njengoba bese kuxeliwe kwiprogram nango ngeli xesha be-introduce uDr. Janda, ngubabalwa Guluwaca is her name. I am the district manager for States SA. Kule district yase Amathole, our offices are based in Butterworth at number 53 Blank Street. I will be taking you through the presentation as requested. I am not sure Bangaba, Dr. Janda has seen me shaking while he was pointing out a few things that that would make us as States SA and our respondents or our users a bit uncomfortable, but I'm hoping that after my presentation, noko kuzawube kuthe xibilili indawo anditsho into yokuba ngaba I will be able to address all the areas of dissatisfaction within the members in this house, but I will try by all means to make the picture clear. I had thought that andizungena kakhulu kwi-census, but as you were presenting, I thought that before we go into your request, in terms of presenting what you had requested, what do we have in as plans, single states say. Let me just give a snapshot, because I think it was early in 2024 when I gave a presentation on the results of the census, and those results of the census or those figures is what you are going to need in order to assist you in the session of this nature. Ndizawuxuba ke ndibonile also noba ngaba uhambile uSis Clarissa phaya, ndizawumane ndixuba ke ukuthetha because ndithe xa ndithi ukujonga ndafumanisa ukuba ngaba noko singabantu abafanele uba bayaluva ulwimi lwesiXhosa. Ndizawuyenza yona ipresentation ingesilungu, and ke besendifundile apha kutatam into yoba ngaba ipresentation iyenziwa ngesiXhosa, and I enjoyed it kakhulu. Let me start as I've presented myself, ndingubabalwa Luwaca, and ipresentation outline yam iza kuhamba ngolu hlobo. As I've already said, that I'm going to give a snapshot of Mbhashe through the eyes of the census 2022. It might seem like the presentation is long, but we're going to go through very fast, but I'm going to try and address a few things. And then in the presentation as well, we are going to look at provincial poverty disparities. We're going to look at poverty lines. We're going to look at income and expenditure patterns. We are also going to see a snapshot of the GDP results for 2024. We're going to look at the labor market, and as maybe some of you would have noticed yesterday that the results of the employment and unemployment were released, so we're going to receive those results, just a few slides on that. And then we are going to talk about the deficiencies in the statistical systems. And also we are going to have a look at what is it that States SA is doing to address these deficiencies in the statistical system. And also we're going to, at the end, look at the interventions that are being done by State SA in order to address the lack of sufficient lower level data after the census 2022. Thank you. Okay. Mbhashe, as the local municipality, is the child of Amatole district. As you can see, that in February 2022, the population of Amatole was standing at that figure of 87,000, 1,601. And if we look at Amatole, the population of Amatole had grown in 2022 by 2% from 2011. Let's go to the next slide. And then Kengoko, interestingly, as much as the population of Amatole had grown, there was a drop. It was overtaken by the Buffalo City Metro, also overtaken by the Alfred Nzo local municipality. Let's go to the next slide. And then it was found out that during the census of 2022, females constituted 52.1% of the population, and while 47.9% were males. But then you will notice that from the age of 35, as we grow older, the women will start overtaking the numbers. The males become fewer after the age of 35 and older. I will not know what the reasons are. We are the people that live in the communities. Our statistician general usually says that we give the numbers, we don't have taste buds, but this is the situation on the ground. And then this is where we stand as Mbhashe. I had to look at Tatu Chana before I say this. There was a slight decrease in the population of Mbhashe in 2022. As rightfully as he had said, he said that in 2011, the numbers were standing at 261, 670. But strange enough, in 2022, the numbers dropped drastically. And he knows the figures off by heart because he said exactly 240,000 in 2022. But I'm going to request that you allow me to go through the presentation and then we will go back to the reasons. I'm not going to say that it's all the reasons, but I will go back to all the possibilities, what could have happened. And then I've also taken some good news from the results of the census that all the municipalities, the local municipalities in Amatole, show increases in educational attendance for children aged 5 to 24 years between 1996 and 2022. As you can see, all of the municipalities have shown growth, and Mbhashe, it's a significant growth. You can see there the difference between the green and the gray bars there. It shows that Mbhashe has done something very well there. I don't know what it is that you did as Mbhashe, but there has been an increase. Thank you. And then if we look at housing and households during the census of 2022, Amatole percentage of households that reside in formal dwellings increased sharply. This means that service delivery is there. Previously, you will see, if we look at Mbhashe, if people that were living, I will say maybe makeshift structures, In 1996, it was 0.2, in 2022 is 0.5. And then informal dwellings, there was also in Mbhashe 0.9. Informal dwellings, it has dropped to 0.5, meaning that I'm sure you can see also, Nani, as you drive by, we are not people of erecting, yes, is abakonomi kuku there and there, but there are very few of those in Mbhashe. And then also in 1996, as Mbhashe, people that lived in traditional dwellings, ababeno phansi zonke ezazindlu zethu zasemakhaya only. The percentage was standing at 8.6. And in 2022, we have grown to 81.4. And then formal housing, meaning that though the houses that we were building, that have been built. It could be our RDPs, other formal houses that people build for themselves, as long as it's a formal structure. As Mbhashe, we were standing at 17.5 in 2022, and we have grown in 1996, we were standing at 17.5, and in 2022, we are now standing at 69.2. I must go back to, sorry, Sissy, please go back. I've noticed something that I didn't present well there. I said that informal dwelling, traditional dwellings were at 81%, but now, meaning that formal dwellings are growing. Now, this is why the traditional dwellings have decreased to 29.8%. Thank you. Still on service delivery. This is an Eastern Cape problem. It's not Mbhashe, it's not an Amatole problem. There are a lot of people that are complaining that okay, we're not water. Okay, this is the good one. It's electricity. We've grown. If I were to show the map, but I've taken it out just to reduce the slides, you will see that in 1996, it was dark blue, meaning that there was no electricity in most of the areas in the Eastern Cape. But in 2022, our map has become a yellow with very, very, very few drops of blue, which means that there are people that still had no electricity. This is a good thing. With people with access to electricity, we have grown to 90.5 in 2022. Thank you. This is the one that I was rushing to, water. It's as I said earlier, it's an Eastern Cape thing. It's not a Mbhashe thing. It's not an Amatole thing. In Eastern Cape still has a number of municipalities with households having below 60% access to water. This does not mean that taps are not being taken to people. You will find out that sometimes taps are there, but there would be maybe problems with the flow of water to the taps. So this is what the people had reported, that some people said they had no access to water. Let's go to Amatole and see where Mbhashe is standing. In 2022, Mbhashe Municipality has the lowest proportion, which is 26.7% of households with piped water inside the dwelling. It's not saying people don't have piped water, but it's saying inside the dwelling. Now, these would be the people abanamanzi angenayo bawathatha ezisinkini, abane toilets eziflashwayo mhlambi because benamanzi. And as also recorded the highest of people with no access to piped water, meaning that there are people that abasakha amanzi emlanjeni. Inyane ayizukwazi wandim, I'm just giving the numbers. Thank you. Moving along to the poverty disparities, I must make a disclaimer that the results of our poverty levels or disparities do not zoom down to go to our local municipalities, but as we go to the end of the presentation, you will see that Stats SA is at work trying to correct this. The poverty head count has declined for about 5.5 points between 2015 and 2023 in the Eastern Cape, meaning that people that are living above the poverty line now, we are sitting at 81.6%, just on the poverty line with at 63.1%, and then the people that abasokolayo abakakhulu, they are sitting at 35.9%. We can move. And at a rate of 48.2%, which is 3.2 million people in the Eastern Cape, these people are considered poor in 2023 using the lower bound poverty threshold. This is roughly about 1 million less since 2025. Remember in the last slide, I said that the poverty lines, the poverty threshold had dropped. It's showing now that there are still some people that were reporting that they are poor in 2023, although it has gone down by 1 million. Thank you. Also in the Eastern Cape, we saw that Eastern Cape is had the second largest decline in poverty between 2015 and 2023, and as noba lo lwalimo bekuthethwa ngalo ngutatu Chanda and anything else that is being done in our local municipalities to boost the GDP, or also to boost imisebenzi, making sure that ukutya kuyeza ebantwini. There was a decline in poverty between 2015 and 2023 from 63.1 to 48.2. We are still poor, but we are not as poor as we were in 2015. Thank you. And then close to 60% of Eastern Cape household income was from work. That was reported as from work. We can see that the blue line tells that the citizens of the Eastern Cape are people that believe ngokuvuka baye emsebenzini bakhongozela salaries. And income that came from imputed rent and on own dwellings, these are the people abarentisayo izindlu. It comes in as a second income. I'm sure we have seen izindlu ezakhiwayo, abantu bakhamagxamisi, kubekho abantu abahlalayo, bakho abantu abaphila ngokurentisa abantu. And then income that comes from pensions and social insurance, meaning social grants, is standing as the next one that is supporting abantu base Eastern Cape at 17.7. And then other income, although the percentage has not been given for the Eastern Cape, and then we've got income from capital and income from individuals. The percentage has not been given. Thank you. White-headed households had significantly higher income. We are going to refer to white-headed households because we are not talking about Amatole, we're not talking about Mbhashe, we're talking about the Eastern Cape as a whole. As I had said that these results are for the Eastern Cape. They showed a significantly higher income and consumption expenditure versus other population groups. So this is will be us ke ngoku mhlawumbi nabantu bebala. Thank you. And then if we go to poverty lines, the national poverty lines for 2023 per person per month in rands. This is how poor or rich we are. The people that are living on the upper bound poverty line per person, on average, that person will be earning 2,635 rands in South Africa. And then the people that are just below the poverty line are living with 1,300 rands. And then people that desperately poor, are living in income 777 rands per month. And then at a rate of 48.2%, okay, I've already presented this one, yes, pinned as a slide. And then interestingly, the Eastern Cape ranks the third highest in terms of poverty since 2023. And it has been noticed that we don't lose this position. We have remained, if you can see the next slide that talks to the Gini coefficient, that Eastern Cape Gini coefficient dropped slightly from 0.69 in 2006 to 0.60 in 2023, but still we remained in the same level as the people who are poor in South Africa, as the Eastern Cape. Thank you. And then the national Gini coefficients dropped slightly from 0.69 to in 2006 to 0.60 in 2023, and remained. And you can see into bangaba akukho tshintsho lungako in terms of indlela esiphuwa ngayo singabantu base Eastern Cape. Thank you. We are being compared as the Eastern Cape kusetyenziswe in Nelson Mandela ne Metro, because these results go as far as the metros. They don't come down to our level of district municipalities and local municipalities for now. The Nelson Mandela Bay and Buffalo City Metro are ranking 6th and 7th in terms of poverty, with a lower bound poverty rates at 30.2 and 33.3 respectively in 2023, while eThekwini had the highest rate at 40.7. So noko siyazixhwithela si Eastern Cape kwiThekwini. And then in terms of income and expenditure, the next slide I will find very interesting, but let's talk about this one first. It has been found out that male-headed households earned almost twice more than their female counterparts from work. It means that otata baninzi bayaphuma bayosebenza babheke izimine okanye baye PPP party. Income for the male-headed households is twice as much of that of their female counterparts. Male-headed households derived most of their income from work compared to female households receiving 66% versus 49%. Means that if females zibhiliva ngophanda, andazi noba ziphanda phi na kodwa ziyaphanda. Thank you. Siphanda extortion. Oh, kuthiwa it's another form of extortion, Gele. Okay, and then the majority of total income from the Eastern Cape was earned from work at an average of 81,883 rands, followed by income from pensions and social insurance. Eastern Cape mainly. Si phila ngokusebenza nangegrant. Doesn't mean that azikho ezinye indlela zokufumana imali, but these are the ones that were distinct. And then household in Western Cape spent more than twice the amount spent by household in Northwark and Limpopo. This doesn't concern us kakhulu si Eastern Cape because we're not compared to Payana. But tina si Eastern Cape uyabona also bangaba sikhala ngaphansi kwe Western Cape. Western Cape they spent about 229,636, and Eastern Cape spend tina imali yethu andazi basiyiphanda kodwa siyisepi, but we standing at 1,124 1,112 and 400 rands. Thank you. And then, now this is the one that I said it's interesting. In Eastern Cape, male-headed households spent more than the female house-headed household. Remember, we said, ngodada that earn income from working, or mama bayaphanda. But you are finding ke ngoku into bangaba ikwa ngodada abaspenda imali kakhulu, which is proving ke ngoku what is being said on the floor, that siphanda apha kubo odada bayayisebenza baphinde bayikhuphe imali. They are the people that were found to be spending more money than females. Siyenzani imali bo mama? Singena imigalelo. And then close to 60% of Eastern Cape household income was from work. I've already said that one. And then, next slide. The average household consumption expenditure for the metro areas was about 1,079 and 227 rands. I'm looking for our metros. Buffalo City. 75,000. We are born basikhala ngaphansi kuna 179,000. We don't spend kakhulu. And in the median was 75,000. But then we still spend less at 128,000 and 665,000. Thank you. White-headed households at significantly higher income, I've already said. And they are also, next slide, also proven to be the ones that spend more because banayo imali. If we're looking at just a snapshot GDP, I'm not going to talk kakhulu ngalena, but I felt that I should talk about the GDP of the Eastern Cape because our planning as this collective is going, the outcomes of this planning is going to contribute to the GDP of the province. As the Eastern Cape, we contributed 7.6 to the South African GDP. Please go back, Sissy. As you can see, that Gauteng gave the biggest share, and I think we know why. Some of the people baya khangelwa ngutata uJanda babayephi ngo2022 na baya be contributor kwi GDP yase Gauteng nako KZN nako Western Cape. Thank you. And then 3 provincial economies contracted in 2024. The annual percentage in regional GDP was between 2023 and 2024 is like this. If we're looking at Eastern Cape, we from the GDP we contracted 0.2% of the annual percentage. Next, and then in the Eastern Cape, this is where we are contributing in the GDP of the country. Personal services, we contributed 23% of that. Finance, we contributed 17% of that. Trade, we contributed 15%. And manufacturing, we contributed 13%. I just want to compare with the Gauteng. Gauteng, you can see, which is the biggest hub of the economical hub of South Africa. You can see their biggest contribution came from finance, whereas Tinai Finance was the second highest contribution. And then what proved to be the personal services in Eastern Cape is the least contributor in Gauteng. Thank you. And then we're looking now at the labor markets as released yesterday by the Statistician General. It has been reported that the unemployment rate has dropped, but it would be interesting to see by Eastern Cape we have dropped now. Eastern Cape at 51.4 recorded the highest combined rate of unemployment and potential employment in Q4 of 2025. Ne? Followed by Northwest at 59.9%. That is where we are sitting as the Eastern Cape. We are the highest with unemployed persons in the country. Thank you. But I'm sure you can see, as I was driving, I've seen a trend in East London. I'm not sure about East London. You will see next to your Sparks, next to Spa at Dorchester, there are people that are standing there looking for jobs. But I've seen an interesting trend now, which is very new. I've started noticing it last year. I'm not sure if it was there. There are female job seekers now. You will find that there are females that are standing by the side of the road and they are looking for jobs. That came to me as a very strange thing in 2025, but I'm getting used to it now because you see more females standing at the traffic light looking for jobs, more than it used to be males in the beginning. Over the past 10 years, the unemployment rate in the Western Cape has consistently remained below South Africa's national, meaning that Western Cape, below the national average, while the Eastern Cape has consistently recorded unemployment rates above, this is sad, the national level. Thank you. The official employment rate decreased in 6 provinces between Q3 and Q4 in 2025. The largest decreases were in the Northern Cape, Northwest, and Mpumalanga. It means, Dr. Janda, we need to do something drastic as the Eastern Cape to rise above what we are being said to be consistently remaining there for the past 10 years, because we are the ones that have the highest unemployment. Thank you. And then Western Cape and Mpumalanga and Northwest recorded the largest increases in employment, while Gauteng province, KZN and EC recorded the largest decreases. So people have lost jobs in Gauteng, KZN and EC. I'm sure Ngoku, Dr. Janda, if we were to go and get results, siphinde siyobala sithi yi-census sizawubafumana abantakwethu behleli because baluze imisebenzi eGauteng nase-KZN. And then approximately 465,000 out of 1.3 million or 35% young people aged between 15 and 24 years were neither in employment or education or training. We call them the NEET. So ngabantu nje awusoze ubafumane abakhangela imisebenzi, abafundi, they are not being trained. Ewe izandla zami ndonqena ubiza igama elibi ngabo but ke balapha. And you are kufumanisa into bangaba it's mostly youth, and I'm sure now uyazibonela. And most of the time xa kuthiwa kuqhekeziwe ezindlini zethu soze ufumane inkothovu yexhego kusithiwa yiyo eqhekezileyo ezindlini xa besingekho. Uyawufumanisa into bangaba ba-ranger phaya kodwa ke andilopolisa andizi na crime stats. The overall people that are neither in education or training or employment decreased by 2.5. This is a good thing, of a percentage point between quarter 4 2024 and quarter 4 2025. It means that ke ngoku mhlambi bahambe babheke esikolweni okanye there are projects eziye zenziwa zathatha abantu abatsha abasithi bayila NEET population yethu in terms of employment. And then I've already said, please go past this one. Pass this one again. Pass. Go back to that, the one before this one. It's just, okay, it was just the graph, it's slow. Okay, and then when I started my presentation, I said that there are worries and questions about the data that Status A is giving to people. But Status A was brave enough to see that there are some gaps or some deficiencies in the way that we are collecting data or in the kind of data that we are providing to our stakeholders. One, there is a statistical information gap. I'm glad Kutwe Mandi presente after Usalka, because as she was presenting, it was as if she had me in mind. If you are looking at those SDGs, there is a lot of data that is needed to address those SDGs that Status A is not providing. So that goes to inform that there is an information gap. There is data quality gap, usage of data with unknown quality, the problem, the quality data that has not gone through the quality framework esetyenziswa ngu-Status A ukupasisa i-data. Uyawufumanisa into bangaba there are people that go and buy data which u-Status A will give you for free, bayoyithenga kwi-companies ezithengisayo. But that one you will find that at times it has not gone through the quality standards. And also there is a statistical skills gap. We realize that there's a skills gap. The skills gap is addressing the one that is before. Because Status A is not saying that other institutions should not collect data, but it's saying that there are 8 dimensions of quality that those data collecting institutions have to go through and pass to make sure that the quality of data that they give to us is of an international acclaimed standard. So Status A is saying that those companies or institutions that are collecting data should be trained. And then there is also governance framework, the legal mandate and governance structures as Status A, as Clarissa was saying, that according to the amended Stats Act, the Statistician General is the only official, only person that is mandated to collect the official statistics. Now, these are the interventions that are being done I've already spoken, no Clarisha Uchilo, Ubangaba, the Stats Act has been amended to make, to give the Statistician General the mandate to be the one that is collecting and releasing the official statistics. Now, Status A, what Status A is doing is working hard to make sure that they are forming partnerships and collaboration with those institutions that are collecting data, so that whatever data we are getting from other people, if you choose to go and buy, even though kusitwa you have to use data ka Status A, we make sure that that data has passed through the qualifications framework. And then there is also the integrated indicator framework. Dr. Janda spoke about it when he said that he met the head of Status A. There is something that is called the integrated indicator framework. What is its aim? The aim of this integrated indicator framework is to address those goals of the SDGs, to make sure that the information that is needed for us to be able to achieve those SDG goals has been collected. It's talking the same thing as what I've said there. It's just the SDGs in a different format. Now, how far are we as Status A with this integrated framework? We have partnered with the Office of the Premier and COCTA in 2024. The Provincial IIF Committee, which is led by Dr. Nombekela and Ms. Mbhashe, who is the acting Status A head, has met, and this partnership is led by the two of them. And all provincial governments last year in 2025 have been trained on how to link our indicators to the SDGs in 2025. Now, the next step is that during the first semester of 2026, Status A is busy focusing on training all Eastern Cape municipalities and to assist with IDPs and provide training on how to link the SDGs to our activities, to make sure that we have addressed those 17 goals. And then municipalities that have already been met with is Kaukama, Kocha and Sundays River, and Makana Municipality. And furthermore, I already said that Otatu Chanda said when he was talking, he's very unhappy about the drop in the numbers. Now comes the time where I try and give answers. The methodology of collecting the census says that we take a snapshot on something that we call the census night, which was the 2nd of February in 2022. A snapshot would be if ukungena I helicopter izothatha I snapshot apha izawufika niphakamisa isandla kanje. Ukuba ngaba ngoba busuku bendingekho within the parameters of Mbhashe, bendikwenye indawo, I will be counted kule ndawo bendikuyo. Uke wathi uPremier ethetha ngenye imini yena urhalela kubalwe ngoDisemba, because bonke babantu babuya bazosebenzisa iresources zethu baphinde bahambe bayosebenza bafake I-injection go Gauteng. That is why you see that Eastern Cape yona in terms of the GDP ifaka kancinci, because aba bantu ba economically active abahlali apha xa sibalayo abahlali apha xa kusenziwa ishare baphi aba bantu abekho. But also there is something that is called the census night. During that census night, Tatu Chanda, we go to the bus stations to try and capture aba bahambayo. Sibabali laba bebehamba bephuma eprovincini bengenazo injongo zokubuya. Mhlawumbe sababala apha eEastern Cape. So you would have found abantu bakwa-State SA bebala bonke. Another reason has been mentioned by Dr. Janda that abantu, generally nje, abantu abafuna ukubalwa. And it is said to mention that especially izifundiswa nabantu abamhlophe. Uthi usondele endlini yomntu onemali okanye osisifundiswa akubhebhethe okomsholoku esithi akanaxesha lakho yena udiniwe wara. Abantu that would normally give us attention singu-State SA, even nakwezi surveys sizenzayo ziqokelela le unemployment stats, that would give us attention izabangaba makhulu bapay grant. That's why you see that Eastern Cape izawuveza ukubangaba siphila igrant. Thina abantu baphangelayo asinaxesha lokunikeza lo information kwabanye kubantu abazayo beqokelela data. Also, while Dr. Janda was presenting, I listened. He mentioned isibhedlele sasezithulele. Uthe sihleli kumhlaba waseMbhashe, although sibelonga e-OR Tambo. Yenye inzakala eye yasehlela ke ngoku singomasipala is the delimitation of the municipal boundaries. Ufumanise ngoku into bangaba elinye icala uyabona apho bakukugatyana. Kodwa xa ufika abantu bapha bathi hayi mina ndingwase KSD okanye hayi andingowase Amathole ndingowase OR Tambo according to the boundaries. That is how we have lost other people. Now I'm trying ke ngoku to address ke ngoku elele unhappiness. I am not saying that it's all the reasons, but these are the reasons as it documented endikwaziyo ukutsho into bangaba bayephi abantu. Yes, the drop is significant, inkulu kakhulu and ibhlungu, but these are the possible reasons. And then now what are we doing as State SA? Ndizawuqala ke ngoku nge data that is being collected. You will find no bangaba I've spoken about poverty lines dithethe nge-metros, dithethe nge-Eastern Cape, ndingathethi nge-local municipalities. State SA has seen that the data that is needed at local municipalities asizi ipela kwi-metros, and it doesn't give you enough information to work with. There is something now that is that we are busy piloting that is called the Continuous Population Survey, the CPS, which is a revolutionary output of State SA redesigned household survey program. Yeah, for months no bangaba there would be that abuti osisi ozawufika azobuza ba umgomo unewulahla njani. That's our general household survey. And then sibuze abantu about ubangaba uyawazi amalungelo wakho, uyayazi into bangaba xa uthe wahlukunyezwa uyaphi. That is our justice survey, and also there is our domestic tourism survey. Now we are going to take all of those surveys, zibe survey A1. Then zizakwehla ke ngoku isample yakhona is going to be big enough to go to the lower level, which is our municipality level. And there are stages esezihanjiwe kakhulu to pilot this. And we are hoping that it will be rolled out from 2027, depending on what we have found while we were busy piloting. And then I've already explained that it's a respondent and user-centric survey model, but the data, the sample will be slightly larger than what we are doing. Thank you. Yeah, and also another thing, can you please go back? No, I don't think you call it tanga. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mbhashe. And I am here to say our office is a mere 34, 35 kilometers away from your office. I'm a phone call away. Ngelakhi okanye ngelishwa lam. The executive undibambe emnxebeni athi akubalwa ngendaweni ethile. I'm here, and also if there are still people that would like to get the Supercross, which is the tool that we are using to release our data, train when akuyo, sikhona single status SA, and also to say that there is some level data that has been released. I'm saying some because we don't have employment in that. That is released up to what level. Population is there. You will find your population up to what level now. And I am here in Ndungu Status A. I will be here tomorrow if your machines are available so that you can get your numbers to the what level. I will be here again tomorrow. Thank you.
Enkosi kakhulu ke kubabalwa for the presentation. Ndiyavuya ke nangale information yokugqibela nalento ithi you will be here with your machines so that la information sikwazi uyisource, because this is what I've always been wanting. The information that goes up to the ward level so that we understand what is actually happening in the areas. But thanks very much, Babalo. That we're presenting here. And it is precisely for that reason that we have requested your office to be part of this planning session. The approach because we're dealing with other bantu bathetha ngento zo align ne strategy ne population numbers and all that, asesithethe nabo uqala sandule ke ngokungena to ezinye content is ubutato somtyala saphumile besinengxoxo kakhulu ebusuku which is related to what you are saying. Siyathetha apha no president indoba it means most we will continue see the labor sending area as the Eastern Cape njengoba uyibona ubhekisa pha up until sikwazi utemperisha with the structural arrangement of our economy. This is what it tells us. And we must be deliberate if we want to address this thing. Ndithi Tatu Somtyala lento ipresentwa apha isondele kakhulu kulaa ncoko besiyithethe ebusuku. It's a reflection of structural arrangements economy yethu. And nokuthi si deliberate kangakanani utemperisha nese structural arrangement. And unless and until we do that, le pictures awuhlala nje simane sothuka sikhuza every now and again when it is presented in these platforms. The second thing, I am not sure, bendithe kwa exec Sisinandi, you would still remember when we had that meeting. That as much as njengoba sisho naye kakuhle benayo le information nanidla ngosinceda nibalances as u-exec nibane nikhupha your socio-economic profiles as municipalities so that sikwazi ujonga i-impact ye-interventions esizenzayo, because there's a lot of investment that we're doing as municipalities kwezi programs zethu ze-LED. There are a lot of interventions that we're doing. But Kuba is presenting a picture at a provincial level. But siyanqwalude sifika njani siyibone uba lento siyenza inayo ni impact. Singaqhubeleki sisenza into enye kanti ayina impact ayichange. So that ikwazi ukusixelela uba hayi ngeba niyenza kodwa khanitshintshe ke ngokulendlela okwenza izokwazi ubona the immediate impact yenzani ngolhlobo. And unfortunately as esitsho bona ngokwezi bazipresentayo zihambanga ziyofika kulo level yokusibonisa lona. So whether kungoku sigqibezelayo, if you remember on the purpose xa bendiyenza bendithe isincedisa u-enhancer njengoba sigqibezela, but ikwazi unika guidance nakwabanye abazawungena njengoba kuzawuqalwa ngo-2027, so that nabo bangangeni baqhubeleke nento esiyiqhubayo kanti le nto siyiqhubayo ayina impact. Ndinika nina ke ngozinkokheli uba nifuna uba nemibuzo apha kubabalwa. Nabani ke uvumelekile abuze umbuzo apha, sizele loo nto apha. Asizelanga uba abantu bazokozela apha bakuthiwe hayi abanye abathethi, abanye mabathethe. Wonke umuntu olapha kwaye uba nithethi ndizawunivolontiya one by one nithethe. Akakho umuntu onongabi nanto yawuthetha kwezi nto zingaka zithethwayo. Yes, kuyabona niza kakuhle ke ngoku. Incwadi esandleni, ipeni esandleni babalwa. Ndzanika ngenombolo ke 1 2 3 4 5 mm 6 sesinandi bakhona kwelicala. Okay, masike sibe sithatha le 6 kusekusasa. Mayibe ngathi izawuqina ipeni yakho. Iya ke CFO singathetha sihleli phansi bantakwethu kodwa nofuna uma kuba kudala sihleli angema, so umuntu makenze ngendlela evamnandi ngayo kuye. Iza CFO
Nkosi sedolophu mandithathe lithuba ndizibulisele wonke umuntu ngokulingana. No, my concern ke sedolophu ipha kwi-numbers. I know ke there's a debate which is ongoing kule nto ye-white paper nokubala kwe-equitable share. Yes. So andinawuba kude ke sedolophu le nto inemali. Now I see the numbers have dropped, and over the past I think 2 to 3 years equitable share is more or less khona nyaka ibidrophile but yaphinda now yabuya. Now I wanted to check, would that drop in numbers have a significant impact okanye maybe other factors ezisetyenziswayo would have caused that, like your economic outlook ne-interest rates? Because I see the margin drop kwe-numbers iyabonakala, but it's not that I wanted to check from the stats esiba the fluctuation from the numbers, what impact does it have kule equitable share allocation, and then second in future if numbers then guaranteed okanye impact as numbers not much
ingabe comment okanye nje ifuna i-clarity kule nto ine-methodology ka-Stats South Africa. Why ndisitsho, if you can go back to 2001 utata uMbeki besaphethe, the methodology esetyenziswa ngokunqanda i-comparison leya kukhona ukungafani. Then ke kukho le nto ngokivelayo le methodology ithi ye-census night ababona uba izawuba yi-last resort. Ndicinga uba nxa usiya back phaa 2001 up to 2011 kune-increased, then apha ku-2022 idrophile. Now nxa idropha phaa indlela abasebenzise yona ayifani nale ka-2001. Kuthe ndisitsho nje phaa ngo-2001 baqale ngale nto ibike yavela phaa kuthiwa yi-survey, then bazawungena kule nto ye-settlement dwellings uba imizi mingaphi, yenzeka within la survey bayenzayo. Then after la survey iphinde yamla nto kuthiwa yi-listing. I-listing ke ngoku ihamba nale nto ye-settlements, iphinde izochaphazela the new settlements zongezelela uba kukho imizi emitsha efikileyo. Kuzongena ke ngoku lento kuthiwa i-enumeration, kuqalisa ubalwa. Kuqale lento ngale methodology ndiza ngayo. Into ngoku ebethile apha mhlawumbe financial babethekile, because if you compare stuff sabo ngoku bangatsho bathi ba comparison esika 2011 to 2001 sizawufika siless kunesiya, because pha funeke qashe i-surveyors baphinde bazitshintshe ibe zii-listers, iphinde ibe zii-supervisors, zihambe nento kuthiwa zii-enumerators. Ithi yophuma ke ngokulandelelana kwaso. Ndiyibona mna ilapho ingxaki kwilapha kwibudget yabo, if ever bebesenza ngala hlobo, because abantu bebekhona ngoku bebefika emzini uba kukho umntu bedlule bahambe, umntu kungabuzwa noba uphi, kanti bekusenziwa i-publicity uba ngedate ethile kuzokwenzeka u-1 2 3 nomntu okhona kubala into okokuba abantu abahlala kulo mzi bangaphi, njalo njalo. Thi bendinoyicacisa ndonqina uhambisa ixesha elide, bendifuna uveza nje le nto ye-methodology because isibetha kwibudget kule area yethu nxa kunothiwa sine-states esiphantsi, babe abantu elinani sinalo apha lingelilo, lingengo-actual lo sinaye. Enkosi.
Nkosi, you can speak.
Thanks very much, Executive Mayor. Greetings to you, President, and the councillors, and also the officials that are here from various departments. Okwam kuncinci sodolophu is just to welcome a presentation by Sisibabalwa. Also, ndiye kulento yokudropa as a layman, I was very, very angry. Xa sidropa engqondweni yam ndandisithi sizawuye siyenyuka instead, kuba ndibona i-increase kwaba bantu bazi-dwellers, because if uyaqaphela akukho nemhlaba nokuthiwa ngowotya iinkomo okanye iigusha, because all over sine-dwellers. Ndibuze ke ngokuba aba bantu bona babalwe phi okanye babebalwa phi kule nto ye-demarcation. Wena babana njengoba senditshilo ndathi njengomntu ke oyi-layman kule nto ye-States SA, sifikelwa apha yiwadi epheleleyo enabantu aba-over than 7.5 and above basuka from the area yaseMnquma. When I was asking ku-minister ukubana songezelwe number of councillors, because I believe bana when there's a ward that is from another area as a Mbhashe, ithethe increase in terms of wards, then sithi sizaba ne-wards eziyi-33 xa ndandizibalela nje ndindim. And also I have also requested 3 more councillors for the municipality, looking at the population that is coming to us. But unfortunately, I can't get ibe successful Lord. But it triggered into my mind that time, man, we have dropped in terms of population. Perhaps that number is as you fix again, Lord, or le is our figure by next day. That is again go. I am in agreement with you, Babalwa, the increase in terms of electrification. Mbhashe, you are very accurate. Lord Slobonati si balangal okokbana, we have tried to electrify imizi eminintsi. As a result, your slide prior confirms that. In terms of water, there is infrastructure, of course, but again, the issue yokbana aza kanjani na to the communities, Lamans, but there's infrastructure. Whenever you go to all the areas, you'll see that there's a tap, there's a line, where everything is there, but awade afike aphume. You are also accurate in that. I agree, I'm in agreement with you, kulondo le. Kule ye migration. Xa bendijonge esa slide sakho, andikwazi uyitrace ngokule migration bana le yaba basuka apha kuthi Eastern Cape. Besoloko sisithi immigration iya eWestern Cape, so dolophu ifika khumbula ndikhathazekile zimbhasi nekhumbi ezazithatha abantu kwezalali zethu. Kusithwa kukho ama-apile aya egrapho kuyovunwa. So ngela xesha loba kubalwa kuthiwa nakweza registrations bamkakanye ngela xesha abantu abaninzi besiya eWestern Cape, but the slide ayibonisi okokubana nyani inoba aba bantu baya eWestern Cape baya eWestern Cape babonakala ngoku ingathi le migration iya eGauteng, because iGauteng ivele yana percentage ephezulu kakhulu kuneyase Western Cape. So ilapho lento. Also kulento ye informal settlements. Inyani sithi asikabi nazo thina asikabi na informal settlements zi overcrowded. Perhaps inoba yilento ke sithi ke we are having a program formalize the informal settlements so that whenever efika human settlements akwazi into bana akwazi ukubakhela. Asikabi nayo that volume ye informal settlements. I think ilento singeyo industrial zone. Inyanisile into bana Eastern Cape kulento ithethayo in terms of employment and unemployment, we are rating at a very high to. Lento sodolophu sisolo sithetha ngayo nokuba sikula NGO yethu noba siphi sithetha ngayo lento yobana lento ye industries that were closed esasithetha ngazo yodimbaza yomsobomvu yotyuba yonjalo njalo ine impact enkulu kulento ine employment and unemployment. Kulento ye GDP ayingebi ke ngoku aba bafikileyo sibabiza pha ezilalini ngo my friend babe baya contribute kulento yokubana si contribute very low in terms of GDP. Kuba ikho into ethi bona eyabe imali bayifaka ezibhafini okanye bayayigcina abayisipha, so it is not taxable imali yabo. What is what is your plan ngabo bona aba basuka kuthiwa bango asalami khona lento ithethwayo yabo ithini iplan yenu ngabo when nikusefieldini nithini xa nibabala njengabantu abacontributayo in terms of tax, so that sizokuyazi lobana njengoba sisithi zavala ivenkile ezi zotata umzodidi ngoku kwezi zabo zo Ali and banibani sizotshekisha into yobana le labor market yethu idrophayo xa bona besenza lento ithini. Yes man, phele apho sodolophu. Thanks so much.
Nkosi Somlo, Dlamini.
Mandizibulisele kuwe Tata uMeya nabo bonke abantu abasendlini. Ndithi nqanga nenze bazalo. Ensenyatheliwe ke le ndawo ine budget kulento yokudropha kwamanani, but bendikhalela ubuza phaa kusisibabalwa ukuba xa ezi field workers zabo bezithatha sisiye ezilalini ingaba ziyatrainwa na, not about doing their work but ngokubaluleka kwalento, even the end result abaza nayo. Because ngoku bekubalwa ndibuzile njima ndiphangela nje ndingabikho emini ndibuza kumeza wam, yemeza sowubaliwe wena kuba kuleya yokuqala kwakubalwa sithina abantu baphangelayo sasilindwa ufike kusizwa late. Ndibuza meza ubalo athi hayi ayikafika apha le nto yokubalwa futhi yade yaphela. Ndihambe ndiye esingcwabeni kwezalali zakuGatyane, ndithi xa ndibuye esingcwabeni ndihayikise umntu wayevela obala, ndibe ndisabela le nto yobala uba yenza njani. Hey zange uthetha kwakhe zange uqinisa umnqwazi wami futhi wandinika ithemba loba asizubalwa because wathi bayasamplisha bangena umzi lamzi namzi nalamzi uthi wesba kaloku abasaphathanga ne-counter book banale tablet yabo ibenzela lula kodwa wathi bayasamplisha bangeni yonke imizi so le nto ndirhalela ukwazi uba ingaba bayayazi na because if bebenoyithathela ingqalelo le nto yokukubala bayazi uba at the end of the day andithi bona bazi-temps phaya kwa-stats or kwa-census mhlawumbi inga-end apha isongeza ibhajethi kumasipala umasipala create ii-jobs ezizawukwazi ukunceda bona even noba ingumasipala wonke umhlaba wase-Eastern Cape xa kuzothiwa kubalwe kakuhle amanani enyuke ibhajethi yenyuke nabo aba amathuba engqesho azokwanda ininzi into umzekelo uthe phaa kwi-poverty line sehlile it means sizokwehla mpela ke ngoku thina because kaloku singaba sikrokrele kuba ingakhe iphinde ithathwe kwale bhajethi sihleli siyinikwa incinci ngenxa yoba kusithiwa amanani wethu ehlile sibe phofu sine-poverty line esezantsi mhlawumbi aba bantu sibabalayo kule poverty line ehlileyo ngabo aba because abasenasonke sa-stipend bebesifumana kodwa abayikwazi uyithathela ingqalelo kwale nto yokubala so nantso bendirhalela ukwazi because ingaske basensitize uba le nto niyenzayo anenzeli nje ukufaka amanani ikwancedisa ekuhlaleni kwenu okanye kwiindawo zenu ukuba izawuwenza u-A no-B no-C so that umntu aye enalaa ntshisakalo yoba makayenze kakuhle futhi enze sure uba indawo ayenzileyo amanani ayenyuka ngenyani asithi makuphosiswe kodwa makuthethwe i-reality. Enkosi.
Enkosi.
Enkosi Executive Mayor, I think we also appreciate your presentation and also the assistance that will be given by Stats kulento beyi-offerisha ke ngokwe presentation yakhe. But I think the speaker has covered some of the issues that I wanted to raise. There were reasons that were given in the presentation for the drop in terms of the population. Mhlambi ke ndingake ndiyifumane apha ke ngoku kwi-households what maybe were the reasons, because we would understand uba mhlambi sehlelwe yilaa nto yasemthatha kuthi imizi imkile. Imizi ayimki yona, instead iyanda. Isinika ke ngoyi-conclusion yento ethi kule nto ithethwa nguloli yoba abantu bebesenza le nto yokubala abayibalanga yonke as areas. Because you can't have households in 2011 as 61,000. Drop to 52,000. Go 2022. Ziyephi ezinye households. Almost 9,000 households are not counted. Abe uspike thetha landa ithetha into ba instead of bazehle households zenyukile because kukho amanxiwa amatsha bengekho ngo-2011. But what might be the reasons ke apha kwi-households isinika ngoyi-conclusion ethi akubalwanga yonke le mizi ngohlobo bakubalwe ngalo, which goes back ke kwi-capacity maybe that was given to abantu ebekusuppose babayabala. That's the conclusion that we have. Enkosi Soto.
Enkosi Sisinandi.
Thank you, Sodolop. Mine is quite brief because again the MM has covered me. What I do welcome la offer of training officials kwa-Masipala. I'm not sure what the offer exactly entails. In my other life, ndise kwa-Masipala. Every year, xa kukhona i-strategy plan, there were report departments. There was a column ethetha nge-baseline, and the baseline move. You can't have a baseline from 2 years ago. Isahleli njalo. Whether it's infrastructure, whether it's LED, etc., etc., your baseline should be moving, and that is your barometer to show if you are making any impact. Where officials, if you are implementing an LED project and you now have 50 beneficiaries who were unemployed before. You can't, xa uqala kulo nyaka uzayo, uphinde uthi, aba beneficiary, they don't feature anywhere. Same with infrastructure. You had, when you started, to take with 5 years, you target 1,000 kilometers, for example, and you start doing 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers of roads each year, your baseline can remain 0. Where I'm going with this, that is the data that is live, that is real, that should be updated by municipal officials. But what Stats SA needs to do is to capacitate officials to capture that information correctly and update that information correctly. That is how you then start to manage data ephumayo kumasipala wenu, and you are able to see if you are making any difference. So I don't know how Stats SA would do it, but resources are quite scarce for all of us, including EXEC. We are unable to collect data alive ngolo hlobo ukogqitha umasipala. Let's capacitate municipalities and municipal officials. No akwazi ukuyimonitorisha the collection of data on a quarterly basis. Kungalindwa yazazi officials ndanisebenzela umasipala for over 15 years. Siyazi kenika data. But even before a project is implemented, that information should be available to say, kule lali, councillors, kule lali, kule ward, bebe banga, abantu abangaphangeliyo. Nansi project iqalile, and therefore, so many have now benefited. One initiative that we had in Alfredo was on vaccination of livestock and the improvement of mortality rates. We had that data. The service provider was mandated to collect that data. Esebenza no Department of Agriculture. We could easily say 5,000 heads of cattle have been vaccinated. X number of farmers have benefited. So many hectares have been cultivated. And we could be able to verify that information. So that's I say, please, this is something done on a daily basis. This just needs to be formalized so that it complies with the requirements of quality control zakwa-Stats SA. Thank you, Chair.
Nkosi kakhulu. Ndifuna ulibazisa izake sisibaba.
Akhange ndiqonde uba kuzawuphinde ndizome epanini xa ndiphendula. I thought I would be able to. And thank you very much for all the questions and the comments received. Ndiqale apha ku-CFO, Mhlekazi. I will be lying to you if ndizawuthi ndiyayazi i-methodology esetyenziswayo xa kusabiwa i-equitable share. Remember when I was presenting, ndithe mna umsebenzi wam is to give numbers to the users and the people that are responsible for planning. And yazi ukuba ngaba, because ndonqena ukuxoka executive mayor ndithi kuzawusetyenziswa i-numbers according to i-population kanti zikhona ne-economic indicators mhlawumbi ziyancedisa. Andizukwazi ukukunika impendulo ethe ngqo because mna ndingu-Stats SA umsebenzi wam kukunikeza i-numbers, ne? I know into bangaba andikuhluthisanga, but that is as far as I can go with this one. And ilandele kumhlekazi bethetha nge-methodology etshintshileyo since 2001 and 2011. Let me start by saying the methodology, or in terms of who is counted within the borders of South Africa, okanye who is counted within the borders of that municipality, okanye the area, has not changed ever since we started the censuses. The only thing that has changed is the manner in which our census is done. Yes, you were right by saying that there is usually a pilot. A pilot was done. But unfortunately, a pilot is not as big as the community survey, where you will be able to see abantu behamba kwiindawo ngeendawo. Fortunately for me, ngexesha le pilot ngo-2020, bendisasebenza eBhisho. I-pilot was conducted, iBhisho was one of the areas that were sampled. And you also mentioned that after the pilot, they would be listing. And then they would also you would see abantu baqeshwe according to supervisor, enumerator, and then publicity as well. That has also not changed. The only thing that has changed is that Status A no longer has the phases zoku collector in terms of taking those paper-based listing books sasizibiza nge-09 books apho uzawuhamba ubhale structure ne-structure. What happened is that ngoku we are using computer assistance based data collection method whereby umuntu xa evisitor loo ndlu ufika qale record apha structures ayo kwakule tablet ayiphetheyo azawuphinda athi xa egqiba ukurecord eza structures ziphayana establisha uba ngaba there is a household apha, then iza kumvulela iquestionnaire so that abuze imibuzo. That is the only step that was lacking that you might not have seen. We did not go and list and go back again because it was going to take us time and money. Now the whole tool is embedded into that tablet umuntu ayiphathayo uqala fika liste endlini qala enze publicity aliste bali structures acheckisha uba ngaba zeziphi ezihlala abantu zeziphi izishops. Then when a household has been established, then ke ngoku babalwe abantu according to what has been found. Osis Babes, thank you very much for the comments and everything eninzi oyifumaniseleyo that I've presented now that you have seen. I think you had two questions beside the comments. You said that during the delimitation of the boundaries, you received a whole ward of about 7,000 people. And you were hoping to see those numbers, ne? And when you started, you also said that nani business zama ukunqanda ikhumbi zingaphumi nabantu, ne? I'm not saying that abantu balawadi bayepi. I am not able to say ke ngoku kulena it would be interesting to find into bangaba kule lower level data city ikhona ye population siza kuyibona na, because kuzabanzima ngoku mna ukuphendula off my head to say ababantu bakulala lithile baye basondezwa bafakwa kule ward, ne? Also in terms of my friend ubuzile into bangaba xana sibabala siye sithini. According to methodological status A, when you are counting census, when you are counting kwezi annual surveys sinazo where we are checking service delivery and other things that are being given abantwini, we count anybody that is a resident South Africa, whether or not ulapa legally or illegally. Siyambala because sinala belief iti xana kukhutshwa la equitable share ibixelwa ngu-CFO aba bantu bazawusebenzisa kule infrastructure kuzo zonke ezi zinto sinazo, so siyababala aba bantu. The only thing that we are not able to tell, okay fine, let me talk to the income and expenditure, ne? Oh my friend bane shops sithenga kubo and all of that. Uzawufumanisa uba sihamba siyothenga thina, bona bane responsibility yokuhamba bayostock. So we count that uba ungenise malini wathenga ntoni ngamalini. Siyayibala. The only thing esingakwazi ukuyi-establish singu-status A is in terms of tax yabo, because ngumsebenzi kaSARS lo, we are not able to tell whether or not le mali bayenzayo iyatekswa. Kodwa into esiqinisekileyo ngayo ba xana sisenza income and expenditure, when we go to my friend baye bangafuna ubalwa nange census my friend abaninzi babengafuna ubalwa kwakufuneka side sikhangele ezi organizations zidila nabo sicenge zona uba mazibabale because bona banebelief yento bangaba xa siyobabala bazawudeportwa. So we have to explain to them into bangaba senzela into bangaba xa nigulelwa ngabantwana nibaseziklinikini zethu uzakwaziwa njani into bangaba ukhona iza kwakhiwa njani ikliniki kule ndawo kuyo ne. This leads me to umbuzo obuziweyo wekubangaba i-training bayayinikwa na. The same training, the same information esiyinike respondents zethu xa sizicenga into bangaba maziparticipate xa nasibala is the same information esiyinike field workers to say this is why kubalwa. This is why kufuneka nibaliwe. Maybe nizawulinka kancinci ngo-2001, 2011. Uba niyaqaphela, back then, buya ufumanisa into bangaba utishala uphuma esikolweni ahamba ayobala. But ngoku u-Status A akakwazi ukuthatha otishala because ngela xesha otishala sibhizi sibatrayina abantwana bafundiswa ngubani. Ngoku also there is this thing esiyenzayo into bangaba siyazama unako into bangaba makube kuyaqeshwa abantu abatsha. Unfortunately abantu abatsha ke ndiqinisekile nakoyena imisebenzi bayanidoja ne. And another nto ebuhlungu eyasehlela singu-Status A. Uba niyakhumbula into bangaba initially the census was supposed to be in 2021 but it had to be moved ngenxa ye-COVID. Ne? I was one of the people that were sitting in training in 2020 preparing for census ka 2021 abaye bavalelwa because kwaye kwacaba izinga le COVID linyukile. What happened is that ke ngoku when we trained the people, instead of going to train them face to face, we were forced to train them behind uba is it visible on your site, say. How do you know ke ngoku i-24-year-old okanye 18-year-old uba ngeli xesha ithi is it visible la ihlela ngethaveni? So there was that pandemic yenzekayo ka 2020 but we did train them but unfortunately we did not train them face to face. Abanye sasiye umbhaqa because besiyenza into yomonitorisha sizamba o supervisor mababahlale sekwelo holwana mhlawumbi it was illegal but besizama because besizama na quality. Uthi xa uthi uzihambela edolophini nanku umuntu uyahamba nalento iyathetha lento akayihoyanga noyihoya. So those are the realities that we cannot run away from. But training has been given and those people that had taken the training seriously babalile. And ize ke ngoku kwinto encinci mhlawumbi efuna ukucaciswa kule ndaba ye-census ndive into ethi sampling. Besides the fact that single-Status A senza censuses and the big community surveys, we've got our annual surveys whereby we don't go and count everybody. There would be a sample mhlawumbi of about 10 households within your area that is going to be counted, and then that sample will be aggregated to represent that area. Ngela xesha le census akhange sizimise i-surveys zethu sithi kuba ngoku kusenziwa i-census asizuba nayo i-capital labor force survey asizuba nazo ezi. It could have been that ngumuntu obekuphendula engakuphenduli according to i-census ekuxelela ukuba hayi mna ndivela kulamzi nakulamzi nakulamzi andiyazi uba ngubani wawudibene naye, but I just wanted to explain into yoba ngaba besides the fact that we are doing the population census which covers everybody, we do also have i-household surveys that take a sample. Ndize ku MM. Izawufuna ke ngoku ndize ne-background kancinci ne sithe iziza siyazibona zininzi zithe sane. Those according to Status A zi-dwelling units where abantu bahlala khona. But in terms of households, Status A will define will define household by means of bangaba ngumuntu obe besithemo sekuthathwe snapshot ngumuntu obe khona naphaya. Remember ikhona indlu yakhe phaya ethafeni ne isiza sakhe sikhona, but the first question that you have to ask as a field worker census is ubuphi ngobusuku bange-2 kaFebruary 2022. If uthi bendise Gauteng akakho kwi-census yaseMbhashe lo mntu. And the methodology has been standing like that ever since the census started. It hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is the manner in which we collect data. And then I welcome the comments from EXEC of encouraging the training of the officials zakwamasipala. As I had said, Dimane ndithetha ngeza SDGs into bangaba, there is a program that has been started in Stats SA, and I even said that we've started training Sarabatman Masipala Bagosana is River Kaukama, whereby we are going to look at the SDGs and then we look at the indicators that we are giving. Are we covering everything? So we are on track, we are doing what you have requested. Thank you very much for the comment.
Enkosi kakhulu, ubaba lo ningamnaxhala uzawuba nathi utshilo mos nangomso nanamhlanje kude kuthini. So we will still find time to engage with her. Ndiyafuna uzuphinde noba kukweliphi noba kukwi-commission noba kundawoni uphinde uemphasize lento ye dwelling versus household. Uba yintoni mahluko phakathi kwento zimbini. Uzusimplify nduvile kakuhle usithi iziza eziya wathi ngudwelling. So iyafuna ke izimani ibethelele because sinendlela ngendlela zokutolika. Thina household sicimba imizi. Uyabona nto? Yeah. So iyafuna.
There's one that I didn't answer
Okay.
that I think is very important. One, I think it was asked by uSpeaker ebibuza into bangaba ibisithi ngokwe-belief there's a slide that I didn't show ubangaba immigration yapi. I do have that slide. I will present it. It will show us ubangaba abantu xa bephuma apha Eastern Cape baphuma bayapi. But abantu xa bephuma babheke Western Cape, babheke Gauteng, babheke KZN, babheke Northwest. You will notice into bangaba eGauteng ne-Northwest zezi uzawufumanisa uba zine-mine and all of that. KZN abantu bakwela cala bako Alfred, so most of them nabanye basemthatha uyawufumanisa into bangaba babheke KZN for uyofuna imisebenzi. And then in terms of what you saw that I was presenting that said that Gauteng had showed the most, I think it was the GDP, and Gauteng is the most populous province in South Africa. So therefore they are contributing the most with GDP yethu. Thanks.
Nkosi kakhulu sizawucela upresident ke ngoku is going to respond kule nto ine-equitable share figures ntoni. So uzawuassista ke nalapho upresident ngokwe-perspective apha kwesalga.
I know the discussion is not about that, it is not about me. I think the question, CFO, you'll know that in South Africa currently, you have a program that register the indigents, the indigent register. And the indigent register, it only takes those that are indigent and have ID. I'm raising this point because I want us to link it with the equitable share formula and the MIC grants that are allocated to municipalities in the Republic. Equitable share formula, it takes two principles. One of the principles is the total population of a community, of a municipality. And the second contributor is the size of the economy. I was just asking the mayor now, because looking into his municipality and another smaller municipality, I thought their allocation combined both the MIG and the equitable share, I thought is running around 300 million, and I was correct. Because of the number of people that you have in your community, more in particular those that are ID carriers. You'll note this debate because the debate that we had in Parliament at some time ago with the attitude that was displayed by MEC Health, who is the premier today in Limpopo. The MEC Health, at the time when she was an MEC in Limpopo, she was arguing a point that the allocation allocated to department and all other spheres of government is on the basis of number of people that they serve, even people that they need health services. And therefore, she was arguing that she can't accommodate people coming from other countries because they are occupying their beds, which their beds are not allocated financially by national government. Now, yesterday, I was talking to Parliament, responding to President Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address. We're making 2 points in that, thinking about the 10-page presentation. One point is that if you count since 2000, the dawn of local government system in the Republic, to date, the money that is owed to local government is 1.8 trillion rand. And if you break that down, is 180 billion rand a year. And that it accounts of those that live in a municipality with the green or with the ID identification as individuals that have been declared to be citizens in the Republic. One of the issues that we were making argument yesterday, which it comes from a cabinet lekgotla that we had, is that the country as a whole, more in particular Home Affairs, this is the issue that we are arguing, that Home Affairs do not have a data of how many people who are coming from other countries into the country. And there is no data that is available with regard to that. And as a result of that, the argument is that if you go to municipalities, the statistician general is saying in cabinet, total population of South Africa is hovering around 64 million, 65, somewhere there. And that is the total population of South Africa. And out of that, we still need to grumble and find who is a foreign national, where he is, and how does he relate, and where is banking. For instance, we are aware as SALGA, if we conducted a study, for instance, in the Western Cape, in a township called Khayelitsha. The township called Khayelitsha, a week it makes billions of rands on your tax shops, businesses. But that money is not finding itself to banks. That is why we are then arguing, if you see in our paper in Parliament, is that SARS need to play its role to improve the economic ability of municipalities. So the revenue base from that level, because everyone who earns his or her money by making business, he must pay tax. And that tax must be directed through the fiscus, and ultimately it must reach the municipal space. So I thought it is important for me to talk about that. It's a debate, it's a challenge that I will understand, that all of you in the municipal system in the Republic, you'll have difficulty because you've got a competing interest. And therefore, that is why it's important to be concerned about drop of your population, because it has an effect. However, let me conclude by saying, in the white paper, part of our argument, which generally I think, and I will think that we are all in agreement on this one, that municipalities in South Africa must apply a differentiated approach. The municipalities are not the same. I think the statistician just showed you that most of your people are going to 3 different provinces, 4 different provinces, mainly. The mining, the cane, the sugar cane in KwaZulu-Natal, and some prospect of growth in the Western Cape. It tells you that people are living in your area, And once they live in your area, they flood in the urban spaces. Of course, if you look into the 2050 projection, many people will be living in the urban cities. Now, it will leave your municipalities like yours as poor as it was yesterday. So that is why we are talking about a differentiated method of allocating financial instruments so that you jack up the municipalities that have no population. Intentionally, we are trying to challenge the issue of usage of population and economic size.
Thanks very much, President, for that insightful contribution. Now, what we're going to do is our Tato CEO from ECRDA. Sithethile ke konke okusikuthethileyo ngamanani ubume bethu ukuthi masithini ke ngoku ngezinto. Khawuze Busimpe.
Manibulisa okokuqala ngalemva kwemini. Yahamba ndingaqala. Mongameli ndiyabulisa. I'm hoping uba ezinto sizazithetha apha uzazilandela nationally. Ndinethemba xa ndikumamela. I have decided the focus will be on one thing, and I will use the marine tilapia as an illustration of that. And it's systematic, and it's a big challenge. But before I go there, I just want to share this. We've just lost an icon, and one of the things he says is we all make mistakes. But the question I ask myself is, why do we always repeat these mistakes and hope that we will achieve something different? Because we repeat them. But of course, yes, we do make those mistakes. And he raises this point about rising above them. I think the mayor indicated that we should be as open as we can and reflect, because more often we point to others when in fact the challenge starts here. So change starts within. It doesn't start with someone. You'll never forgive anyone. It doesn't work that way. You forgive yourself and move forward, and it's easier to forgive others. But I think the point he raises, let's keep moving forward. I think it's important. There's a difference. I think it was Denzel who says there's a difference between moving forward and movement. Danisapa, you're not moving forward. You know, like people who are always busy, but you never see what really happens. I think for me, this tilapia, I'm not going to go into detail. We will share the presentations, but I think the point is about having an idea. We've got the ocean, and there are fishes there. People eat fish, and we think we need to do something about our ocean's economy in Mbhashe. But think about it, the broader Eastern Cape, we have a master plan. And what then happened is a feasibility study was commissioned, and marine tilapia was identified as the right species. So the feasibility study had to prove, firstly, when you do a feasibility study, is there a market? Is there someone who's going to buy this? Even with water, sanitation, is there a market? Is there a client? Is there a consumer for this? And the second one is, yes, we've got the ocean, but is this the right species for the microclimate we have? And then you tick that box. But do we have the capacity to do it, the management capacity to do it. Do we tick that box? Then who will own this thing? And when you read the report, it talks about ECRDA, for an example. It's a non-starter. ECRDA can't run a marine pier. There's no capacity. Government cannot. But who's the jockey driving this and behind this? Who will make it work? Do we tick that box? But then the feasibility study says you are flying in and you're zooming in that specific site or sites. Doesn't talk about how do you get there. It almost assumes you fly in, because it's just doing a feasibility study there. But is it how it works? Because it doesn't answer the question, when you have mined this fish, did all the husbandry required, how do you take it to market? Which roads do you use? Because if you're flying in, then there must be an airport. But if not, then how do you get there to the market? And how much does it cost you to land it to the plate? Because the analysis will then tell you that it costs you more than someone producing it in Brazil, producing it here. So it's not viable. That's the discussion we're having with the mayor. It's not. We've spent 4 million, and we're supposed to apply to the BFI, which requires around 1 billion. The costing here says 200 and something million, not even close. Now I go back to the lessons and say, what have we learned? So I'm not going to go through the technical detail because there's some detail that they worked on. I think the point is there's a market. Bottom line, there is a market, but how much does it cost you to land? How viable is it, and what will it take? I just want to go to, the last one. Go down, down, down. Yeah. I think the things that are not in dispute, why it's important is that we've got the ocean, we've got the climate, we've got everything that God gave us. There's no doubt about that. And it's not just this fish that you can grow, there's other fish. That's not in dispute. But the second thing that's not in dispute is the economic impact that it will have. Jobs, all sorts of things, the revival of this economy around fishing and creating an industry. That's not in dispute. So the issues we're proposing, the first one is, what are the lessons? I think the first lesson for me is we then announced it nationally before we even did the basic desktop research, created expectations. That's what we did. And if you think about it, it's not the only one. Where an announcement is made and expectations created, and only the work starts. Critical infrastructure has been overlooked in the project. The logistics, the road, the cold storage leading to where this will be in Mbhashe is not part of this study, so it's not incomplete. Because it's not going to just fly to the consumer, it has to link. So we spent 4 million and we have not done what needs to be done. Because when you do bankability, you look at the entire value chain. So that's the lesson. Roads, access, water, etc., etc. we assumed the demand, we never really zoomed in. Actually, yes, there's $3 billion demand, but which demand, which consumer, how do you segment it? And when you start selling it the first day, where does it go? Because you're talking about business and governance and ownership, etc. So one of the things we are saying is that we are not going to give up. But what are we learning? So we need, together with the municipality, to relook at what needs to be done, which is, we've got the base we have, which is a good thing. Let's complete the feasibility study. Part of that is to look at infrastructure in the main, because without it, it's not going to fly. I'm using this as an example because when we talk about Mbhashe, we will talk about two things. In fact, three. This one, which is the oceans economy. The second one is nature, ecotourism, etc. The third one is going to be more about agriculture and agro-value chains. So those are the three things. I don't know what Nandi will say that says, no, I'm not right. I think we'll agree together, right? Because that's what we have. We have the ocean, we have culture, we have ecotourism potential, we have all sorts of nature and agriculture. We are a consumer economy. All we do is to eat, not produce. We eat, we don't produce. I was interested in the statistics that I hear, and we were talking that men spend more, and maybe they spend it on liquor. That's what we were thinking about. But what you will find, if you were to dig deeper in those numbers, is that transport food generally dominate. But I haven't seen the detail. Why? Because people must travel to do even the most basic things. And they spend money on travel. And then food. And then, of course, you've got other things, clothing, et cetera, et cetera. But the question for us in the strategy, and as the mayor said, instructing us to reflect, and this is why I changed this to say it's more of a reflection. But before that, I thought, let me just share where we're taking ECRDA, because we, as the ECRDA, are not where we should be. So I'm not going to stand here and lie and say we're ready to roll. Zawuthetha izinto ezinye ezinondiphilisana ngumsebenzi. The advantage is that President dinonyaka oneenyanga ezimbalwa lapho. So, and ndingaqala uba lapho. I've been here many times before. Nalasis unani. So we generally talk about the experiences, and sometimes you sit in a room and you're like, wow, we're making that mistake. So the province has decided ECRDA must go to the office of the Premier. I'm excited about that, because at the time when I was here, we had Waskisa. People wonder what made us to do things faster. It was because we were not hamstrung by competing interests, the ministers and MECs. It was in the Premier's office, because rural development inherently, it's about all these other departments, not one. You can't talk about agriculture and not talk about infrastructure and water, and today, broadband. So that department needs to play a role, and that other one. You can't talk about agriculture and not talk about land. So for us, the question is, ECRDA is not going to be a department. We believe it should be focusing on what the province has identified through the DDM and One Plan as high impact priority rural interventions. So what it points us to is strategy is choice. part of the challenge we face is that as humans, we have self-interest and fears. That's what drives all of us. Me, you, everyone here. Self-interest and fear. So I fear that if my ward is not in that budget, my constituency will revolt. And as a result, we've got 5 million, we spread it, divide by 30 wards. We can't even finish a 20-kilometer road because we want to service everyone. We're not making a choice. And we repeat that again. Yet we've got 5-year terms where you could say, I'm focusing on this, and we're going to make a difference. Same thing that we do as the ECRDA, we're trying to spread because the pressure we have now is why ungekho kule province yethu or kule masipala and so on. So spread and end up, you've got nothing to show. I think that should be a lesson. So one of the things we are saying here in our mission is focus on developing bankable projects. We do not have, other than SEZs, a capacity to develop bankable projects that is more biased towards rural economies. We don't have that. And if we don't have it, and I spend a lot of time at Joburg, working Goma, Durban, and Cape Town, one difference that I noticed is that we would sit at Old Mutual, we would get a letter. We're inviting you to come here. When you go to that meeting, it's not about we've got the resources. It's about here is our plan. We've mapped it. This is the business case. Old Mutual Investment Group, can you invest here? These are the numbers. This is the ROI. This is what it means. So you're discussing business, and you're called by a district municipality or a province. Here, the province, the national department announces R1 billion. We're waiting and hoping that Infrastructure South Africa will help us. Where are we proactive in creating these bankable projects? And they require money. Gauteng, each year they've got around 100 million that goes to bankability. They've got an infrastructure agency that does that. So other than SEZs, and if you're then going to deal with this economy that is excluding the blacks, as this was, getting worse, creating us as consumers, the only way to turn it around is to respond to it deliberately. So this project about marine tilapia, we need to do it and have a bankable project and spend money proving feasibility. What that may mean, for example, is that you may end up phasing development because you may start with the road and unlock other opportunities. Sunral doesn't wake up and say, here is money for the road. They start with bankability. Now, what we will find, and which is what, again, we're saying we would like to work with municipalities, and we're hoping Treasury will give us this money. If not, this thing's not going to work. Is that what you find is that there's R1 million there that does a feasibility study. And when you look at it as a financier, it means nothing. It's just a concept that's been paid for. You cannot finance it because it's not bankable. We need to rethink and start asking ourselves in Mbhashe, what are the 3-5 things that will be catalytic, and we need to get national, provincial to make it bankable and drive it. So that's what we want to focus on. So rural and based on all of those lessons. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but just before that, 3 things that inform what we do is fewer but better. We had a strategy session, and a lot of people said, you have all these 120 things, but you end up achieving nothing. Just have this principle that guides you, fewer but better. We know that. Let's avoid that temptation of wanting to do more. but focus more on quality and impact. That's what we are saying. So if we can agree on these three things that align with the district and all of us, we're saying this is where we go, as we did with the marine tilapia. The second one is ithamo. I like Diosoga, what he said. Ithamo lamanzi konxaniweyo, umthamo wenkobe kolambileyo, nendawo yokubeka icala phansi kodiniweyo. All it says is about, let me not give you inkobe when you are thirsty because ufuna amanzi. So we're not going to sit here and say bafuna lendo. We have to co-create with them so that it aligns with what they need. Do you understand? So that's what we're saying we have learned. It doesn't mean when we say fewer but better, don't do other things, stop. No, no, no. It just means there will be those things that are like our 5 year, this coming 5 years, we're going to do. Yes, we will do the small things, and then empowerment, etc. But I want to focus more on, let's go to the next, this one. There's 5 strategic pillars that we want to, we definitely show we are aligned with Mbhashe. If you read the IDP and you read Stats SA, etc., etc. The first one is that rural development has to be infrastructure-led, because that's where the challenge is. We cannot unlock land opportunities or the climate and everything because we lack the infrastructure that connects the rural areas to markets. That's the basic thing that we have a problem with. So your cabbage or isa spa can be more expensive than a cabbage or sugar deben because they've got scale and it's cheaper for them. So you're competing with abantu, urban infrastructure who don't have the costs zoku transport apha. Industry cluster commodity corridors. So the question then on the second one is, we know that we've got sheep, wool, we've got livestock, we've got all of these things. Where are we deciding that let's build, because they are happening, that's the beauty. Mbhashe is strong on agriculture. So where can we then zoom in and create scale and know that this is where we're going to have an impact? This is the corridor that is going to be sheep, wool. This is the grain, livestock corridor. Which areas? Well, and we're not going to do it in all the wards, but it may be not even capturing only just Mbhashe. For it to be viable, it means it interfaces with Umnquma and even others. So you think bigger so that you have scale. The question is that we've got Ivili Loboya, which is looking at expansion and all of this. They can't get the quality enough wool, that's what they're saying. And also farmers are not getting all the benefits because still that market is dominated elsewhere. What needs to happen to really improve on where we are? Because that's an industry that's growing in most rural areas. So I'm making that as an example where we think we should just sit down and say, these are the corridors that we want to unlock. The third one is on social facilitation. We've learned that this government spends money on these projects, but we hope and pray communities have capacity to run them and leave them with multi-million rand projects that fail because we're not investing in building that capacity. That's a lesson. And you wonder why. I mean, I've been earning, as Umama was saying, by 171,000. Now I've got this tractor, which is worth 4 million. The next thing I saw, because I cannot even afford the diesel, it'll be Tanjiwe because politicians decided that they need a tractor. By some magic, the tractor will create the agricultural economic activity. It doesn't work, we know that, we've seen it. but we continue to do it. Why? So money given to communities can actually create more problems than they had before. Think about it, it has happened. Just like winning lotto and dying because you've won it. You can't manage it, everybody is a powerful. So it's caused community conflicts because that tractor now is a source of conflict. So how do we then become better? And we're proposing social facilitation, but the other thing linked to social facilitation for us is about how do we ensure one of the weaknesses, Ukaba will tell you, if you're in agriculture and if you've been in commercial agriculture, the only way you get to leverage funding and get more finance is when you have a balance sheet, and more often than not, that balance sheet is in your land. So when you get a title to land and you put some investment, ucingo, and irrigation, your value goes up. Banks, zizawuya kuwe. That's how commercial farmers survive. That's why xa betshona emva kwezi droughts batshona gqithi, because they're highly indebted, but equally they make more money. Tina, we don't have that. We have weak balance sheets. When it's better, I don't have reserves. I can't use my land and say leverage more money. Government tells me, I basically need a grant, basically need a loan, they can't give me more. So the thinking has to be about how do we appreciate the balance sheet kwaba bangenayo, and as a developmental state, we must have that ability to appreciate and understand what it means to create a balance sheet. The tractor is a depreciating asset. Land is not. And that's what we don't have. That's what we can't leverage. But there are better ways to do it. What have we learned? So, may I hear Glendoge is a statistics that we were talking about. I think the fourth one talks about project management. I think this is more internal capacity, but the fifth one is about this project packaging capability that is needed. The way we see it, I know, and I've asked the CEO of EXEC to have a meeting about this thing. I hear all sorts of business plans being developed, and I've seen them. And the question is, yes, we must do that. But bankability in terms of the high impact priorities, we want to invest in that. So that when we meet with the mayor, as you have said, you will be saying, I've got three things: the marine tilapia, another one, and another one, Sipingu. Not to suggest that there's a 2 million there, there's a 5, those things are happening, but these that change the face, and we are intentional about it. This is where we need to learn, right? That we are not bold enough. And more often when something fails, we move on. Instead of asking the questions and make it work. So the bankable packaging, for me, is one of the things we do not have. And as a result, as the Eastern Cape in general, we lose opportunities because we are not ready. I'm not going to go through everything else. For instance, the talk about differentiated models. I'm just hoping that there will be the time when we workshop with the LED unit and we have focused discussions, et cetera, because the slides are almost 20 or 30 or 40 that are here. But I thought, let me end there and say it's one thing to have comparative advantages and assets and resources. It's another to turn them into something that works for communities. What have we learned? So this old man who's just passed says, keep the hope alive. You only die inside when you lose hope. So let's keep that hope alive and let's re-engage, never tire. The opportunities are there, but let's learn. And I think, as you said, Mayor, the next 5 years that I know the ANC will win, or DA, or will win, whoever wins, right? What have we learned? That's the message the Mayor will be telling them, this council. These are the things we've learned. Let's be different. How do we lock in these investments in Mbhashe? Not through uyosoloko sixoxa ngendlala yethu sicenga, but through CCT, we're bold enough, here is it, this is what we want done, and it's going to cost 3 billion rands. We don't have it, but we've got, the basics. That's what these provinces are doing, all of them, that are successful, because they've got the money to turn ideas into bankability. We don't have money. I would ask in your budget, how much money are you spending to create bankable projects in a much bolder way? We don't, because thank you very much.
Masibulele kakhulu kuTata Somtyana. Uthi ke apha ekugqibeleni sigcinwa lithemba. Uthi sigcinwa lithemba. Itsho itekisi yalapha ithi masigcinwe lithemba. Siyabulela mfoka Somtyana. We had discussions, I think about 3 times ngoku sixoxa lento noTata Somtyana. Xa kwayindlela yoba uzoyi-approacha njani le meko yethu ngalento. And I said kuye, don't worry, yiza mntana, yiza. I said, don't worry, come, break the news. If this thing is ayikho feasible, let's know it, uba ayikho feasible for now. Sizokwazi ucinga ngokutsha uba yintoni ekufuneke siyenzile. Dinewara abantu bayawasazela sixoxa i-economy ya. Sixoxa into okokuba sibakhupha njani abantu kule poverty besiyiboniswa ngu-State South Africa. Sibatrepa njani abantu bethu bangaphumi eMbhashe, sicreate lamathuba okokuba vela apha ngaphakathi bahlale apha. Baneware ke xa kuwasazelwa uba sawuthi ekugqibeleni siphuma nelithini. Ndikwi-predicament ke apha. I-1:25 ngokuvalwa ngo-2 kula ndawo ihlelo 17. Okay. Uba nje kule 10 minutes, because uTata Somtyala after lunch akazubuya. Uzabuya ne? Also you can come back for discussions. Oh, all right. Okay. Let's quickly break for lunch. Singabuyani nge-10 past. Yeah. Kodwa naxa sigqibila ihluphi lanto uba sisagqiba sisondelele ngenene, because akho nto ingenye sawuyenza sizuya lwandle. Kwenze uba ndawunibona ningqunga apha masiqaliseni noba kungo-3. Siyabreaka ke ngoba ntakwethu setyise le nto igqitywa uthethwa apha.